I was standing at the bar at the Dive, a place I'd been drinking at 3 times a week for the better part of 2 years, when I heard myself say something that still makes me want to drive my forehead into a wall. "You're thinking about this all wrong, mate," I told the guy next to me, a recently arrived Australian named Brendan who'd been dating a woman from Nakhon Ratchasima for about 6 weeks. Thai culture has a seniority hierarchy that most Westerners completely miss. Your girlfriend's aunt is older than her mother, which means she outranks her in the family structure. That's not a request for money. That's a cultural obligation. You're expected to demonstrate financial respect upward through every tier of the hierarchy above your partner. If you're refusing to do that, you're not being careful. You're being disrespectful. Brendan stared at me. Then he looked at the man on my other side, a long-timer named Clive who'd been in Hua Hin since before I'd ever set foot in Thailand. And Clive, who had spent 11 years here, who spoke conversational Thai, who had married and divorced a Thai woman and remained on good terms with her entire family, Clive started laughing. Not a polite, uncomfortable laugh. Not a chuckle. He laughed the way a person laughs when something is so wrong that the wrongness becomes physically funny. He laughed until his eyes watered. He set his beer down because his hand was shaking. And then he looked at me, still grinning, and said, "Hank, brother, who on earth told you that?" There were 14 people in that bar. I know because I counted them later, in the dark of my condo, running the scene back through my head for the 4th time in a row. 14 people heard Clive laugh. 14 people saw my face go from confident to confused, to something I can only describe as the specific blankness that precedes total internal collapse. That was 13 months ago. Pensri, my girlfriend of 2 years and 2 months, a 24-year-old from Prachuap Khiri Khan, with a quick smile and a talent I'd never adequately appreciated for understanding exactly who she was dealing with. She had been telling me for those 26 months that I understood Thai culture better than any foreigner she'd ever met. She had been right about that the same way a chess player is right when they tell you that you're very good at this game just before they take your queen. By the time Clive finished laughing, I had paid $44,700 in what Pensri had taught me to call seniority respect obligations. I had corrected expats. I had posted on forums. I had lectured newcomers at meetups with the calm authority of a man who genuinely believed he knew what he was talking about. I had been the punchline of a joke that everyone in the room understood except me. This is the story of how that happened. And more importantly, it's the story of how to make sure it doesn't happen to you. I retired from the United States Army as a lieutenant colonel 3.5 years ago after 27 years of service. When you spend that long in a hierarchical organization, one where rank is literally stitched onto your uniform, where seniority governs everything from who speaks first in a briefing to who gets the better billet, you develop a deep, intuitive respect for structured authority systems. You don't question the hierarchy. You operate within it competently. That's not weakness. That was, for most of my adult life, professional survival. I moved to Hua Hin after my divorce was finalized. My ex-wife got the house in San Antonio. I got my pension, my discipline, and a persistent sense that at 63 years old, I was entitled to some version of a life that actually felt like living. I'd been to Thailand twice on leave during my career. I remembered the food, the warmth, the sense that people genuinely wanted you to enjoy yourself. That had been enough. I was not naive about Thailand in the way that some men who arrive here are naive. I knew about the bar scene. I knew about the financial dynamics that could develop between foreign men and Thai women. I'd read enough before I came to consider myself forewarned, which, as it turns out, is an entirely different thing from being protected. I met Pensri through a legitimate dating application 7 months after arriving. She was from Prachuap Khiri Khan, about 90 minutes south of Hua Hin, from a family that she described as traditional in the way that phrase is meant to convey genuine cultural depth rather than financial inconvenience. She worked at a small guest house owned by a friend of her family. Her English was basic but earnest. She smiled with her whole face. She laughed at things I said in a way that felt genuine rather than performative, and if I'm being honest with myself, and that's the entire project of this video, so I'd better be, I was lonely in a way that I hadn't fully admitted to myself, and she was warm in a way that made the loneliness less loud. Our first 3 months were uncomplicated. I paid for dinners. I paid for trips. I gave her money when she asked, which was not often in that early period, and the amounts were not large. I was aware that there was a financial asymmetry between us, and I was comfortable with a reasonable version of bridging that gap. I was not, I told myself, one of those men. I had my eyes open. The first time Pensri invoked seniority as a specific cultural framework, we'd been together about 4 months. We were visiting her family in Prachuap Khiri Khan for a weekend, and I'd brought gifts cash actually, which she'd suggested was more practical. I'd brought 15,000 baht, which felt generous, distributed as I understood it among her parents and her grandmother. On the drive back, she was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "My grandmother feel a little sad." I asked why. She explained carefully, with what I now recognize was precisely calibrated patience, that in her family's culture, seniority was not just a social dynamic but a formal system. Her grandmother was the oldest living member. That meant she sat at the apex of what Pensri described as the seniority ladder. When someone entered the family as a partner, as a guest, they were expected to demonstrate awareness of that ladder by giving proportionally more to those higher on it. I had divided my gift relatively evenly. That, she said gently, communicated that I didn't understand the structure. It wasn't offensive, she assured me. I was a foreigner. How would I know? I thought about that for the rest of the drive. I thought about it the way I used to think about a protocol breach back in the army, not with indignation but with the genuine desire to do better. I had been ignorant of a cultural norm. I had inadvertently communicated disrespect. That was on me. How should I have done it? I asked. She explained the structure. The grandmother received the most, as the senior. Her parents received the next tier. Younger aunts and uncles received less. Her own generation received acknowledgement but not financial deference, because they had not yet earned seniority. The proportions she described worked out to roughly doubling what I'd given the grandmother and redistributing from there. I made a mental note. On our next visit, I brought 22,000 baht and distributed it exactly as she'd outlined. Her grandmother smiled at me with such warmth when I pressed the envelope into her hands. Pensri translated, "She says you are different from other foreigners. You understand." I cannot adequately explain what that sentence did to a 63-year-old man who had spent his entire career trying to understand complex systems and operate within them with competence and respect. It landed somewhere deep. It confirmed something I had already started to want to believe about myself. That was the foundation. From that moment, I was not just a foreign man in a relationship with a Thai woman. I was a student of a cultural system that rewarded my military instinct for hierarchy, my lifelong comfort with rank, and though I couldn't see this at the time, my desperate need to not be the ignorant foreigner. The seniority ladder became, over the next several months, the organizing principle of my life in Thailand. The obligations grew gradually enough that each individual step felt small. By month 6, I was contributing what Pensri called a seniority acknowledgement payment every month, 10,000 baht, roughly $280, distributed among the 5 oldest members of her extended family. This, she explained, was not charity. It was a formal recognition of their position in the hierarchy. Younger family members in Thai culture did this for their elders as a matter of course. A partner who wanted to be respected within the family structure was expected to participate. I asked if Thai boyfriends, Thai men in relationships also paid these acknowledgements. She said yes, of course. It was standard. I had no reason to doubt her and, more importantly, I already wanted to believe it. By month 9, the monthly acknowledgement had expanded to include 3 additional tiers of the family that Pensri had identified as structurally relevant to our relationship. The total was now 22,000 baht per month. When I flagged this gently, not as a refusal but as a question, she explained that as our relationship became more serious, my position in the hierarchy became more formal, and formal positions carried formal obligations. She said it the way a patient professor explains an advanced concept to a student who has almost, but not quite, fully grasped it. I paid it. The behavioral component of the seniority system was, in some ways, more elaborate than the financial one. Pensri had explained early on that seniority in Thai family culture governed not just money, but physical comportment, speech patterns, and decision-making. Older family members were not asked for their opinion on decisions, they were informed of decisions after the fact, because asking implied that their wisdom might not be sufficient. Younger family members did not make direct eye contact with elders during serious conversations. A foreign partner was expected to learn these protocols and apply them, because failing to do so reflected on Pensri's judgment in choosing him. I took notes. Actual notes. In a small moleskin I kept in my back pocket at family gatherings. I documented protocols. I practiced the physical behaviors she described. I made mistakes, was corrected, and corrected myself. By the end of the first year, I felt fluent in a system I'd never encountered anywhere else, and that fluency felt like an achievement. What I didn't fully understand at the time was that Pensri was watching this process with the attentiveness of someone managing an investment. Every time I internalized a new protocol, every time I paid an obligation without significant resistance, every time I corrected another expat on the basis of what she'd taught me, I was increasing my commitment to the system's validity. The more I'd publicly defended it, the more expensive it became to admit I might be wrong. She understood that about me from, I suspect, the beginning. She had, I later learned, been in relationships with at least 3 other foreign men before me, all of them in their 50s and 60s, and she had a highly developed sense of which psychological levers to pull. With me, the levers were hierarchy, authority, expertise, and the deep fear common to American men of a certain generation and background of being seen as provincial, ignorant, or culturally arrogant. She never pushed me. She taught me, and I was the most eager student she'd ever had. By month 14, I had corrected 7 expats in person and contributed to at least a dozen online forum conversations in which I'd explained the seniority hierarchy system to confused newcomers. I'd gotten into a heated exchange with a British man named Gary on Thai visa who'd called his girlfriend's request for monthly elder respect payments a scam. I told him he was projecting Western financial norms onto a non-Western cultural structure and that this kind of reflexive skepticism was exactly why some foreign men never successfully integrated into Thai family life. Gary's response had been 2 words, neither of which is suitable for this video. I had begun to think of myself as something like an expert. Pensri reinforced this constantly. "You understand Thai culture better than most Thai people," she told me once, with what I now recognize as the particular flattery that is designed to prevent you from consulting anyone who might tell you otherwise. "My family loves you because you respect the old way. Most Farang, they don't care. They think money is enough. You understand that respect and money are the same thing in our culture." I believed that. I repeated it, in various forms, to other expats for a year and a half. The financial escalation continued with the same patient incrementalism that had characterized the entire system. At month 16, Pensri introduced what she called the Seniority Acknowledgement Ceremony, an annual event, she explained, at which a partner formally confirmed his position in the family hierarchy through a structured gift-giving ritual. The ceremony required specific amounts for each tier of the ladder. The total she described came to 95,000 baht, approximately $2,600. I paid it. At month 19, her grandmother became ill, genuinely, as far as I knew, and Pensri explained that in situations of elder illness, the cultural obligation required what she called healing respect, payments to all family members, senior to the ill person. This was to demonstrate to the universe, through the seniority hierarchy, that the family was united in its concern. I asked how much. She gave me a number. I paid it. At month 21, I was told that a family elder, a great uncle I'd met twice, had died, and that the mourning protocol for a partner in my position required a formal grief acknowledgement payment to every member of the family who ranked above Pensri in the hierarchy. 14 people. I paid it. The running total, by month 22, was $44,700 US. I want to say I had doubts throughout this process. The honest answer is that I had the kind of doubts that you experience as discomfort rather than red flags, a mild unease that I consistently attributed to my own cultural unfamiliarity rather than to any problem with the system itself. When an obligation felt large, I reminded myself of what I believed I'd learned, that financial respect and personal respect were the same thing here, that my discomfort was a Western reflex, that Pensri's family had accepted me because I'd been willing to learn. The discomfort was the price of being one of the good ones. The first genuine crack appeared at month 20, though I didn't recognize it as such at the time. Pensri and I were at a dinner with two Thai couples she knew, friends of hers from Prachuap, Hiri Khan, people she'd grown up around. At one point, the conversation turned to family obligations, and one of the Thai men made a joke I couldn't follow. Pensri didn't translate it. Later, in the car, I asked what he'd said. She told me he'd been making a joke about his own family, nothing relevant. I let it go. But I'd noticed the way the other Thai woman at the table had glanced at Pensri when I'd mentioned the monthly acknowledgement payments. I'd brought it up to illustrate something about the seniority system in the context of the conversation. The glance had been brief, but it had carried something. I didn't know what to do with that at the time, so I filed it and moved on. The crack became a fissure 3 months later, at the dive, when Clive laughed. After Clive's laughter had subsided and I'd paid my tab and driven home in silence, I did what I suspect anyone in my situation does. When the first serious doubt breaks through, I tried to refute it. I sat on my couch and made the internal case for why Clive was wrong. He'd been in Hua Hin for 11 years, yes, but he'd been married to a woman from Chiang Mai, not from the south. Regional variations in Thai cultural practice were real. He might simply not know the specific seniority customs that applied to Prachuap Khiri Khan families with Pensri's background. The seniority ladder was a documented feature of hierarchical Asian cultures. I had experienced it firsthand. One man's laughter wasn't evidence. That argument held for about 40 minutes. Then I opened my laptop. I typed into Google, seniority payments, Thai culture, foreign partner. The results were not what I needed them to be. A Thai visa forum thread from 2019 titled Monthly Payments to Girlfriend's Family Cultural Norm or Red Flag came up third. I clicked it. There were 212 replies. I read every one. No one, not a single person in 212 replies, including multiple Thai nationals who had commented, confirmed the existence of a formal seniority payment system requiring foreign partners to make monthly cash distributions to tiered family members. Several long-term expats described exactly what I'd been doing and used the word scam without hesitation. A commenter who identified herself as Thai and who had been living in the UK for 8 years wrote, "This is not Thai culture. Thai children support their parents when they're older, yes. There is no formal hierarchy payment system. There is no seniority ladder protocol that requires a boyfriend to pay graduated amounts to different family tiers. This is a fabrication designed to extract money from foreigners who want to believe they're being culturally respectful." I read that 3 times. Then I searched seniority hierarchy Thai family foreign partner obligations. Then Thai culture elder respect payments monthly foreigners. Then Prachuap Khiri Khan seniority customs. Then, because I needed to be thorough in the way that a man needs to be thorough when his entire framework for the past 2 years is at risk, seniority acknowledgement ceremony Thai culture. None of it existed. Not as a documented practice. Not in any anthropological text I could find referenced. Not in any credible cultural guide to Thai family structure. Not on the Thai government's cultural promotion websites. Not in any academic paper. Not on a single expat forum in any country represented by the foreign men living in Thailand. What I found instead, across multiple forums, multiple blogs, multiple comment sections, was a pattern. Foreign men, overwhelmingly from Western countries, overwhelmingly in their 50s and 60s, overwhelmingly in relationships with significantly younger Thai women, describing elaborate cultural obligation systems that had been presented to them as authentic Thai tradition. The systems varied in their specific architecture. Some were organized around Buddhist ritual, some around family debt, some around spirit house maintenance, some around what the men had been told were mandatory regional customs. But the structure was consistent. a foreign man with disposable income and a genuine desire to be respectful. A detailed, internally consistent cultural system that played to his particular vulnerabilities, gradually escalating financial obligations framed as cultural participation, social isolation from anyone who might debunk the claims, and a partner who praised his understanding constantly, because the more he publicly defended the system, the more psychologically costly it became to question it. I sat with that for a long time. The next morning I called a Thai man I'll call Kritsada. He worked at the marina, and I'd known him for nearly 2 years, though Pensri had always been mildly dismissive of him, once describing him as not educated in traditional way when I'd mentioned in passing that he and I had talked about Thai culture. I asked him to have coffee with me. I brought printed screenshots of line messages from Pensri in which she'd explained the seniority hierarchy system in detail. Kritsada read them without speaking. He's a measured person, not given to dramatic reactions. When he finished, he folded the papers precisely and set them on the table between us. "Hank," he said, "I have to tell you something that may be difficult." I told him to tell me. "This is not Thai culture," he said. "Not any Thai culture. Not Southern Thai culture. Not Prachuap culture. Not traditional culture. Not modern culture. Thai families support their elders, yes. Children give money to parents, yes. But there is no seniority ladder. There are no tier payments. There is no acknowledgement ceremony. A foreign boyfriend does not pay graduated amounts based on age rank to his girlfriend's extended family. This does not exist. I have never heard of it existing. I have never heard of any Thai person participating in it. What she has described to you is something she created." He paused. "Then, how much have you paid?" When I told him the total, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, very gently, "I am sorry. I wish you had asked me earlier." I went home and began what I think of now as the full audit. I pulled every line conversation, every bank transfer record, every note I'd made in that moleskin. I had $44,700 in documented payments to Pensri's family across 26 months, organized under the categories she had given me: monthly seniority acknowledgments, the annual ceremony, the illness protocols, the mourning obligation, and a series of smaller payments she'd described as seniority gesture fees, occasions like birthdays and holidays and significant family events that required what she'd said was a culturally mandated expression of hierarchical awareness. I cross-referenced each category against what I could now find about actual Thai cultural practices. Monthly cash distributions to tiered family members, no cultural basis. Annual seniority ceremony, no documented practice. Illness-triggered hierarchy payments, fabricated. Mourning obligation payments to all family seniors, not a real custom. Seniority gesture fees, invented terminology for no actual tradition. The closest thing to any of it that genuinely existed in Thai culture. The real, meaningful, documented practice of adult children contributing to their parents' financial well-being bore approximately the same relationship to what I'd been paying as a small charitable donation bears to a wire fraud scheme. The legitimate cultural financial participation in a relationship like ours, what an informed, generous foreign partner might reasonably contribute to his girlfriend's family over 26 months, was something in the range of $4,000 to $6,000. I had paid $44,700. The cultural manipulation premium was approximately $39,000. I called Pensri that evening and asked if I could come over. She said yes. She'd been wondering why I hadn't called the night before. I want to be honest about how the confrontation actually went, because the version I've sometimes told in the months since is slightly cleaner than the truth. The truth is that I walked in with my printed forum pages and my moleskin and my screenshots and my notes from the conversation with Kritsada, and I felt absolutely certain. And within 4 minutes of starting the conversation, I felt about 60% certain, because Pensri was very good at this, and I had 26 months of emotional investment working against me. "This isn't Thai culture," I said, and I put the Thai visa thread on the table. "None of it. I've spent 2 days researching this. There is no seniority payment ladder. There is no acknowledgement ceremony. This doesn't exist. She looked at the papers for a long time. Then she said, Hank, this is Bangkok Expat Forum. These men don't know Southern Thailand culture. Our culture is different. I had the Kritsada conversation. I told her about it. She said, Kritsada is from Surat Thani. Different culture from Prachuap. I had a paper from a Chiang Mai University Anthropology Department's published cultural guide that made no mention of tiered seniority payment systems in any Thai region. She said, University professors study general Thailand. They don't study my family tradition. I had a direct email response which I'd sent before calling Kritsada because I wanted a written record from an academic at Thammasat University whose published work included Thai family financial structures. His response had been brief. What you're describing is not a recognized Thai cultural practice in any region I'm aware of. The concept of graduated monetary obligations to family tiers based on seniority ranking does not appear in the literature and has not been described to me by any Thai families I've worked with over 20 years. This sounds like a fabricated system, possibly designed to extract funds. Pensri read that one twice. Her face went still in a particular way I'd only seen once or twice before, when something caught her off guard. He doesn't know my family, she said. He knows Thai culture, I said. Thai culture is not one thing, she said. Every family different. Pensri. I put the total on the table, the $44,700, line by line. Walk me through any three of these that are a real Thai tradition. Show me one source. One. I've been searching for 2 days, and I can't find anything. She sat back, and then she deployed the thing she'd been holding in reserve, which was not an argument but a different kind of weapon entirely. Her eyes filled with tears, and she said, I cannot believe you are doing this to me. I brought you into my family. My grandmother loves you. We treated you like you belong with us. And now you come here with papers from the internet and tell me that my culture is fake? That my grandmother is fake? That everything we shared is fake? The tears moved. I thought you were different. I thought you respected us. I was so proud to tell my family that you understand our way. And now you sit here and tell me that your internet forum knows my family better than I do? I want to be honest. That hit. Not because I believed her at that point, but because 26 months of emotional programming doesn't switch off just because your brain has reached a conclusion. The shame response she was triggering the fear of being the arrogant foreigner who tramples on something genuine it fired anyway. My hands were shaking a little, but I'd spent 27 years in an organization that trained people to stay functional when their emotional state was screaming at them to do something else. I stayed at the table. I need you to show me a source, I said. Any source. One. She couldn't. What came after that was 40 minutes of the other tactics, deployed in sequence with the practiced ease of someone who had done this before. The regional variation excuse became the generational difference argument, became the attack on my sources, became a version of the reversal, in which my questions about the money became evidence of my fundamental disrespect for Thai people generally, which became, and this one was the most revealing, because it slipped out, you have plenty of money, why does it matter? That was the one that ended the argument, because it was the honest version of everything she hadn't said for 26 months. Not, this is my culture. Not, this is how my family lives. Why does it matter? Because I had it, and she wanted it, and the system she'd built had been the mechanism by which she moved it from one place to the other. She told me, eventually, that she had maybe exaggerated some things, that her understanding of the seniority obligations was partially based on her own family's traditions, which were stricter than the general Thai norm, that she hadn't meant to mislead me, that she'd thought I understood the financial realities of the relationship, and the cultural framing had been a way of making those realities feel meaningful rather than transactional. She did not admit that the seniority ladder was entirely invented. She maintained, to the end of that conversation, that some version of it was real. I believe she believes that in the same way that a person who has told a story so many times begins to lose track of where the invention started. I learned, in the following weeks, that the two Thai couples she'd had dinner with 18 months earlier, the friends who'd exchanged that glance, had known Kritsada told me that Pensri's friends in Prachuap Kiri Khan had a group chat and that I had been discussed in it. He didn't tell me specifically what had been said, but he said enough that I understood the general shape of it. I had been, in that group chat, a subject of amusement. The seniority ladder had been, to people who knew her, an obviously invented system that she'd built specifically to exploit my military background's comfort with hierarchy. One of her friends had apparently remarked on the elegance of it. There had been, Kritsada also told me carefully, a British man before me, and a Dutch man before that. He didn't know the details. The first week after the confrontation was the kind of week that doesn't fully make it into the stories you tell later because the texture of it is mostly just bad. I slept 4 or 5 hours a night. I ate without appetite. I ran through the same loops. Every forum post I'd written defending the seniority system, every newcomer I'd lectured in a bar, the specific conversation with Brendan the Australian 6 weeks into his relationship, completely innocent, in which I had explained, with the authority of a man who'd been doing this for 2 years, that he needed to understand the tier structure better. The conversation with Gary on Thai Visa, where I'd told a stranger on the internet that his skepticism was Western arrogance. Every time I'd silently judged another expat for not understanding what I understood. The worst of it was Clive. Clive had been right. Clive had known, in about 4 seconds, that what I was describing was not Thai culture. He'd laughed, because to someone who actually knew, what I was saying was that obviously wrong, like a man earnestly explaining that American culture requires annual payments to your wife's county manager and not understanding why people are staring at him. Clive had been polite enough not to stop me and say that in the bar. He'd only laughed after, I owe Clive a beer I haven't yet had the nerve to deliver. The questions that ran on loop in those first weeks were variations on the same theme. How many people knew? Her friends knew. Kritsada had clearly suspected for some time. The Thai couples at dinner had known. Did her family know it was fabricated, or had they simply accepted that a foreign man wanted to give them money according to a system Pensri had presented to them as authentic? I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure I want to. What I can tell you, because I've now spent considerable time understanding it, is how the system worked at a mechanical level. And understanding the mechanics is the only thing that turned this from a story about me being foolish into something that might actually be useful to you. She began by identifying my specific psychological architecture. I was a military officer. I had a hierarchical worldview. I was competitive. I wanted to be the expat who understood Thailand best, which meant she could use my competitiveness as a quality control mechanism. Every time I publicly defended the seniority system, I became more resistant to questioning it, because being wrong would have meant being less competent than I'd presented myself. She was also, and this is important, entirely correct, that I had a deep fear of being culturally arrogant. I'd spent enough time overseas to know what American cultural arrogance looked like from the outside, and I had made a private commitment to not be that. She found that commitment, and she used it. The seniority framework was smart because it mapped onto something real. Thai culture does have genuine respect traditions around age and hierarchy. Weighing elders appropriately, being mindful of hierarchical social dynamics, acknowledging the authority of family elders. These are real, documented, beautiful aspects of Thai culture. What she did was take the outline of something genuine and fill it with invented specifics. The outline gave her claims plausibility. The invented specifics were where the money lived. She also managed my information environment with precision. Her consistent, mild dismissal of Kritsada, he's from a different background. He doesn't know our traditions, was not random. She knew, or suspected, that he was the person most likely to debunk her if asked directly. Every Thai person I might have consulted who existed outside her social circle was preemptively discredited on one cultural grounds or another. She was sole source, and she made sure she stayed that way. The final piece of the architecture was the public commitment mechanism. By encouraging me to correct other expats, to post in forums, to position myself as someone with genuine cultural knowledge, she was creating a psychological investment in the system's validity that functioned as a defense against doubt. I couldn't entertain the idea that I was wrong without also entertaining the idea that I'd been wrong in public, repeatedly, for 2 years. The ego cost of that was enormous. It was supposed to be. Since the confrontation, I've done what I probably should have done at month 4. I've actually learned about Thai culture from sources that have no financial stake in what I believe. I found a Thai language instructor in Hua Hin who was generous with his time and his knowledge. I read David Smith's Thai reference books. I joined an expat group that includes several Thai members who've been patient about correcting misconceptions, including several I'd been carrying. I've learned, over the past 13 months, that Thai culture is genuinely rich and genuinely worthy of respect, that the practices around family, hierarchy, and reciprocal obligation that do exist are meaningful and thoughtful. None of them require what I was paying. None of them require a foreign partner to submit to a financial tier structure invented by his girlfriend. The real Thai concepts of kreng jai, the deep cultural discomfort about imposing on others, and bunkhun, the debt of gratitude that forms the foundation of Thai relational ethics, are nuanced and real and completely incompatible with demanding $44,000 from a boyfriend over 2 years. Actual Thai family obligation, as I now understand it, is mutual. It is reciprocal. It involves care and presence as much as money. It is not a hierarchy ladder that a foreign man climbs by making monthly wire transfers. Here's what I want you to know if you're dating in Thailand or thinking about it. The single most important protective factor is diverse information sources. If your partner is the primary source of your understanding of Thai culture, you have a problem, regardless of her intentions. Talk to Thai people outside her social circle. Find a Thai language instructor who has no stake in your relationship. Read books. Join expat forums and ask direct questions about specific customs before you pay for them. The Thai visa forums, Reddit's R, Thailand, and Facebook groups for long-term expats are full of people who will tell you, immediately and freely, whether what you've been told has any basis in reality. When a cultural obligation requires money, research it before you pay it. This is not disrespectful. It is not culturally arrogant. It is the basic due diligence that applies to any significant financial decision. If a claimed custom is genuine, it will be verifiable. Real Thai traditions are documented. Real cultural practices have multiple sources. If every source you consult outside your partner says the custom doesn't exist, the custom doesn't exist. Notice when cultural rules apply only in one direction. Genuine cultural practices create obligations that run throughout a community. If every cultural obligation flows from you to her family, and none flows from her family toward you, you are not participating in a culture. You are participating in a financial extraction scheme that has been given a cultural costume. Pay attention to verification resistance. I cannot stress this enough. Healthy cultural education welcomes questions. A genuine cultural tradition does not require you to accept it on faith. If your partner becomes angry, hurt, or accusatory when you attempt to verify a cultural claim, that reaction is not evidence of the claim's validity. It is evidence that the claim cannot withstand scrutiny. The anger is the tell. Watch for the escalation pattern. Cultural obligations that start small and grow over time are a specific red flag. Real cultural practices don't creep upward based on your compliance. If each accommodation leads to a larger request, you are in an escalation dynamic, not a cultural one. And be honest with yourself about your public commitments. If you've told people you understand Thai culture, if you've defended specific practices to others, if you've posted in forums, if you've corrected newcomers, you have created an ego investment in your beliefs being correct. That investment will work against you when doubt appears. Acknowledge it. The discomfort of being wrong in public is temporary. The cost of not being willing to be wrong is, in my case, $44,700, and a great deal of public embarrassment. 13 months out, I'm still in Hua Hin. The relationship with Pensri ended completely within a month of the confrontation, a clean cut. Despite several subsequent attempts on her part to re-engage on the basis that I had misunderstood her intentions and that she had genuinely believed the seniority system was real. I don't believe that, and I told her so. I have friendships now with Thai people who have no connection to her, And I am learning, slowly, what Thai culture actually looks and feels like when it's not being deployed as a mechanism for financial extraction. It is, as I suspected when I first came here, genuinely worth respecting. That doesn't change what happened, but it matters. The money is gone. I'm not going to recover it. What I can do, what this video is try to make sure that some version of the same education doesn't cost you what it cost me. Thai culture is real. The seniority hierarchy that Pensri described is not. If someone is teaching you about a cultural obligation you've never heard of before and cannot verify anywhere, teach yourself to pause before you pay. Ask 3 Thai people who have nothing to do with your relationship. Look it up. Wait a week. Real traditions have existed long enough to survive a Google search. I was trusting. I was proud. I was lonely enough to want to believe that I'd found a place and a person and a way of living that fit together into something good. Pensri understood that, and she was skillful enough to build an entire architecture around it. The architecture was designed specifically for someone like me, and it worked almost perfectly. Almost. If this story sounds like yours, or like someone you know, share it. Leave a comment. You are not stupid. You are not uniquely gullible. You were targeted by someone who understood exactly what you wanted to believe, and who was willing to spend 2 years helping you believe it. The warning signs were there the whole time. I just couldn't see them through the ones I'd put on myself.